Vad roligt att just du har valt att lyssna på vår podd. Tillsammans så kan vi skapa större möjligheter för förståelsen för integrativ medicin och hälsa. Är du intresserad av det så bli gärna medlem i vår förening och en del av vårt nätverk. Mer information om det här kommer i slutet av avsnittet. Vi spelar in på psykoterapimottagningen Integrativ hälsa på Södermalm i Stockholm. Vid min sida min ständiga vapendragare som hänger med på allt vad förståelse för medicinens betydelse i vår historia liksom samtid och mina hittepå. Poddens producent Fredrik Ankarsköld. My guest today is Beatriz Soto. You are more than welcome.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Beatriz, you are born in Argentina.
I was born in Ecuador, raised by my Argentinian family. And then at the age of 17, I moved to Argentina.
Right. And then you have traveled a lot through the world.
You could say so. I think that my intention for moving into Argentina, it was because I felt like my life in Ecuador kind of completed its cycle and I wanted to study psychology, and Buenos Aires is a really good, at that time, like the mecca of psychology. I don't know if it's still that, but my intention was to study psychology there and have a strong title and have a strong background in studies for psychology. And then I stayed.
Then you stayed. How long?
I stayed until I was around 26. Then I moved to Australia just to travel and live. You know, when you get tired of the 9 to 5, you have some sort of awakening. You want to escape the matrix in some way. So I just started traveling. And my intention was to stay in Australia, like loving the combination of beach lifestyle and city lifestyle. But I met a man, a Swedish man, and he invited me here and I decided to come here and then I stayed.
Yeah, you stayed. So now you're living here in Stockholm.
Now I live here. I've been living here for about 7.5 years.
Yeah, and you met him in Australia.
We met in Australia.
What's his name?
Victor.
Victor. And you're married here now.
We married,
yeah.
Yes.
Congratulations. But that is some while ago.
Yeah, around 5 years ago.
Oh, okay. So you have, as you told us now, a background in psychology, but also in NLP.
Yes, I started NLP around 2015, 16.
Could you say what NLP is?
Yes, it's neurolingvistic programming. So it's pretty much understanding the patterns through which neurological pathways are created that then create behaviors and ways of creating your life, pretty much.
Yeah, so you have psychology and NLP. And then you also are a medicine woman, a spiritual mentor, a soul empowerment and embodiment mentor. Especially for women.
Especially for women, yes. For some reason, I decided to focus my work on women because I understand how my energy works and how my body works as incarnated as a female with all that entails. And I just feel more comfortable in my ways and in the ways I portray my teachings and the tools that I offer. They feel more aligned for women. Not that I'm not welcome to men, but I'm not sure that it would feel the same or comfortable because of how I do, of the tools that I use and how I offer my support.
So how come that you went from psychology and NLP and become this medicine woman?
I love that there is no real linear or logical story to this. I grew up with parents who were already in their search of something bigger and greater than themselves. So in my household, I already had books, and my parents, through their lifestyle, were already looking for something greater. So they started doing pranic healing, Reiki. My mom works a lot with embodiment as well.
What is embodiment?
So embodiment pretty much is being in the body and understanding that the body is the vessel through which we are being. And if we understand that we are source, that we are energy, that we are this essence that we call soul or spirit, and it moves through us. And then also that the life force energy through which we create life and express ourselves through life comes through our body, then we also understand that life force energy is energy in motion, which creates emotions, sensations in the body. And a lot of times what happens is because we have been conditioned to be so much in the mind and the outside reality and external validation and all this external world, we forget to be in our body and to feel our emotions and to be in presence with who we are being. And the most important thing is that when we are in presence of who we are being in the moment, we are aware of who we are being and we can choose who we are embodying, what we are embodying. Are we embodying fear, anxiety, and all these emotions that we actually don't really want to feel? Or are we embodying love and compassion? So if you notice, I didn't really say I'm embodying a woman who is this or that. It's pretty much sensations and emotions that then create our state of being and our characteristic behavioral traits.
Mm. Could you say that you become a psychologist in Argentina?
I did. I didn't really graduate. I presented my thesis and it was approved, but I never really delivered it because I started traveling. And then coming back, it was so many logistics. I just left it aside. But I do have to say, if I can be fully honest, there is a pattern that I found with studies that I tend to not complete some cycles. So I feel like also the titles that I've gone after have been to just have titles to feel worthy of being able to help women and to say that I am certified to help women. And then I've just come to the realization that just me living my life and expressing myself and being aware of everything that I'm living and experiencing, that gives me the certification to help women through what I've gone through.
Right. Why I asked you is because I think that as a psychologist, and what you told me now about embodiment is very kind of similar in patterns. You want to have the patient, you want to have the other person to come home to themselves, to calm down their nervous system, and that is one way to do it.
Exactly. Yes. And I feel like also the reason why I stepped into this was because I wasn't. All through my adolescence, I was in a way ashamed of my body because it didn't look like everybody else's. And I started creating behaviors around food that would make me feel safe, also because of my parents' divorce and me not feeling worthy or accepted or popular or whatever you're supposed to feel at school. I just didn't feel completely worthy. It all went to my body. So first it started with diets, and then it started like I couldn't see myself without clothes pretty much. I felt so disconnected how I was feeling because I never portrayed myself, or I never felt like someone who was sad or unhappy, or I never experienced that too much. So there was some sort of dissociation between how I was feeling and how I was seeing myself outside. So I kind of dissociated from my body also because I didn't want to feel certain emotions. I didn't know what they meant. I didn't know. It kind of felt a bit too much at that moment. And so I started using food as my rooting, as my coming to a space of ease. And, food became kind of like the grounding. Instead of being all up in my head with the thoughts and the worry and the anxiety, I started eating to kind of start to feel my body a bit more. But then I ate so much that I felt the need to purge it as well. So I created this pattern of kind of like bulimic patterns. I wouldn't say I fully developed a bulimic disorder, but it was those patterns. And I feel like that was the beginning of me disconnecting from my body and from my emotions. So if I can track back, that was like that moment where I realized this isn't really how I want to experience myself. And then I just started moving through the things that my parents learned, pranic healing, and understanding these different modalities around the common medicine. Because I did go to a lot of psychologists, and it's very interesting because when I studied psychology, it was kind of like a must to go to a psychologist, but it never felt aligned in some way. I felt like there was something missing. I felt like the part of the body was missing. It was so much in my head and think about the time and go back. But when I started going into more movement and connection in the body and kind of following my mom to her practices and having her teach me what she's been learning, it felt more like home because I could feel a lot of things that I wasn't able to feel before. And I could come back to a sense of ease, of knowing that I am capable of feeling what I'm feeling, and it's beautiful to feel it. Even though it doesn't feel good, it can still be beautiful. So yeah, there's no linear story.
No, there never is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I found you at the Conscious Life Center.
Yes.
I go there for the meditations, and your meditations is my favorite. And I have been to your cacao, how do you say?
Cacao.
Yeah. Cacao ceremony. From psychology, NLP, your own healing process, and you came to actually call yourself, you call yourself a medicine woman. What is a medicine woman?
I call myself so many things. I mean, I feel like it's
also... Other persons maybe call you a medicine woman. I don't know, but there you are, a medicine woman.
Right. And I feel like it's also important that for me in this process, because I went from psychology and then life coaching and pranic healing, and it just there's so much. We are so complex and we're so much more than these names and these titles. I feel like it's just something to help people understand the tools that I use, but then there is a complexity around our being that maybe doesn't fit into the medicine woman, or maybe doesn't fit into the life coaching, or doesn't fit because it's just a word. But what my feeling and my realization is that becoming a medicine woman is pretty much coming into a communion and coming into a deep relationship with nature as in Mother Earth, with nature as in the universe, with nature as in ourselves, because we are nature. So when you really commune with nature and you're in this interconnectedness with nature, there's so much wisdom there. Nature has it's so abundant and it's so beautiful, and it has these cycles and these processes and these symbolisms that if we come into communion and understanding these cycles and processes and symbolisms, we understand that we're part of that, and we understand that our inner cycles shift and move with that. So we can find our own medicine through these changes within our body. We can find our own medicine through the symbolisms that our body gives us. And we can heal ourselves pretty much, because nature has this beautiful ability to self-heal. And as nature, we have that as well. So it pretty much comes to being in a deep communion with nature, understanding that we are that as well, and to stop looking for anything outside of ourselves to heal us. We have everything we need. All we need to do is create a communication within ourselves and with nature so that we can learn to interpret the messages that are there for us. And that's why embodiment is so important. Learning how your body communicates with you.
It is. When I work with psychotherapy, I always have this, the integrative perspective is leaning on 5 legs, as we say, on traditional healthcare, in an integrative way of seeing on body, mind and soul, on the importance of good food, but not kind of a general way to see on it, because it's always very individual, what you should eat, and for the movement, to move. Some people have to move fast for their circumstances at that time, and others should have slow motions instead. And then the extensional way of seeing life, and that can be very individual. It always is individual, how we see upon life and the meaning of life. So that is the 5 legs on what integrative medicine are leaning on. So I'm practicing with my patients, we look on all these legs, and it's maybe for one it's 1 or 2 or 3, for another all 5, for a third just 1, and depends on what kind of circumstances they come with. The embodiment, as you speak about, I always includes, and we have this fys, as we call it, as kind of fuss. Fuss is in Swedish, you know, fuss. Fys is kind of the same thing, where you have put scientific evidence for whatever kind of motion, slow motions or activate motions and so on, for different circumstances and different pathological things, circumstances, outcomes. So it's very important, and we know that now. It also is it's scientific evidence for it. So you can't heal without that understanding for embodiment. But the embodiment can also, if I understand it right, that you are talking about, is also a meditation that you just sit still to be to connect with yourself, right?
Right. Because it can be just being mindful of your body at the moment. Because what tends to happen is that because our body, I'm going to use this word for a lack of a better word, saves or archives a situational moment where something happens to you and it just doesn't feel so good, or it just shuts you down, or it just feels threatening in some way. That's what I would call trauma, or we would call trauma. And it's very important also to understand that trauma doesn't have to be such a huge thing. For example, my trauma could also be pretty much being shut down in school and saying I laughed too loud, or I talked too loud, or that was trauma for me because it was shutting my expression. And that can really be saved in different parts of the body. Like I can already feel it in my throat, and I can feel my throat closing as I tell this story. So when we go back to the presence of just be mindful, and as I tell this story, be mindful of where in my body this is located, I can allow that energy to move through, and I can allow that energy to be without that resistance. And also, if we understand that if we put our entire body to feeling an emotion, it's much more easier than just letting, for example, my throat deal with that. So it's kind of like very supportive and very empowering to use the entire body to support a sensation. You're supporting yourself in feeling that. So it can also be just being mindful. It doesn't have to be movement, and it doesn't have to be a lot of things that we're doing. It can just be mindful, because consciousness moves the energy through as well. So by just allowing our body to just be open and receptive to have that energy move through, that's enough. And that can happen through mindfulness, which can be an active meditation while your body is still, which is a very beautiful paradox as well.
Yeah, you have dance meditations.
Exactly.
They're wonderful. Yeah, that is so true and so important. But the most people that have had traumas, who is living with traumas, it's very difficult for them to do this alone. And I think that those people are perhaps the one that you meet when they come to you. I meet them here, and they have to have help because they are too scared to be in the body. They are too scared to feel whatever it is. They have dissociated themselves from their body, and they have to come back to the body. And that is so just the thing to do that. The connection between is the healing thing. But that is, with my understanding, it's always is one part of why they have dissociated from the body is because they end up totally alone. When they said something about you laugh too loud or something, you are standing there with your shame, very alone with everything. And that's what's causing the trauma. So you have to have someone that you really trust to go there again.
Exactly. And I feel like you mentioned something which can be quite simple, but it's the key to everything. We are afraid of feeling. That's it. And you said it exactly. That's what creates the disassociation from our body and from our emotions, and creates that separation and just keeps us in that separation from self, because we're scared of feeling. And if we really just go back to the body and keep the body in this ease and this, like, bring it back from that fight or flight response and bring it back to the knowing that you've got this. Your body was built to feel this, of course, like you said, with support. And then we just kind of reprogram the body to learning and understanding that you can feel this. You are prepared. You were built to feel this. And that's exactly what you said. That's where the help comes in. People who can really guide you through, kind of shift that sensation and shift the experience of it, because it has to be experiential. I can't tell you. You have to feel it. So it's very, very important what you just shared, the support and the having someone help you feel through it.
So when you guide women into activating their inner wisdom and help them create a life for them that they want to come, how do you do?
I feel like...
What kind of women are coming to you?
Well, it's basically women who just want to feel a more fulfilled life. They're in some way disconnected to either their partners or their creative expression or their joy. And it pretty much goes back to the same. Everything is a relationship with self. And the relationship that we have with our partners is a reflection of a specific relationship we have with a part of ourselves, how we treat ourselves in receiving love, in giving love, in feeling worthy of receiving that love, or perhaps our relationship that we have with the expression of the selves and creating a business, or because that's also what I help women do, create their own business. So it's about the creative expression of yourself. And there comes trauma in that from these moments where you're shut down, where you're told it's not good enough, it's not pretty enough, or it needs to be this big, or it needs to be this important, all these conditionings that we have around what things should be, look like, feel like, look, and all the things. So I feel like the pillars that I support the work that we do are basically 3, but then that expands to so much more. The first pillar is remember that you are powerful, that you are your own creator, that your body is the vessel through which you express the greatness of who you are. And that greatness comes with wisdom, comes with knowledge, comes with so much more that goes beyond the logic, that's just there for you to remember if you go back to that place of wisdom. That's the second pillar. When you remember really who you truly are, when you remember that you're the creator, that you are God, you are source. And when I say God, I don't mean God in a Catholic way. I mean source, love, energy, consciousness. You are that. And when you remember that, you start remembering some parts of yourself that you can activate by going into the body. For example, the womb space for the women. It holds a lot of memories, a lot of wisdom. And then we go back to the third pillar, which is the heart. The heart also holds a lot of memory and a lot of wisdom. And it's a higher wisdom that goes beyond any logic and any human form. It transcends the physicality of our being. So the 3 pillars are that we are our own powerful creators. We have the power, and nobody knows better for you than you. You are a wise woman, and you can hold all of the archetypes of the medicine woman and wise woman. And you have that deep inner wisdom that's activated for years and years with all of that you come with. And if you live from a place of the heart, and if you live from a place of truly being guided by your heart's desires, then you understand that your heart's desires is your soul calling you forward to express a vibration and a creation that only you can create in this planet, that it's so unique, and that's why you're here. When we create something through the expression of ourselves, the vibration that you vibrate as you create that, only you can create that. Nobody else will hold that, because it's how you feel while you're creating it. And that's also what the medicine women did. They would knit and they would create potions and we were priestesses, and everything that we would create was through who we were being at that moment. So it's all coming back to a sense of relationship with self, remembering you are whole, and healing your relationship with self through these 3 pillars. And then that will be reflected to all of the relationships that you have, because everything is energy. Everything is a reflection of how you relate with yourself in different areas of your life, whether it's work, whether it's money, whether it's partners, whether it's...
You don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are in every way. Oh, that is so beautiful when you put it that way. And I think that for me, you also come from a scientific perspective, as I do. It's so, I have difficult to see how this could be so apart from each other, because we speak the same language, but through different perspective, because everything is to come back to yourself in some way. And people come through different way. But, so this is so familiar. Everything is very similar with the scientific way to see and the medicine woman as you are working as a medicine woman. So tell us more. What happened then? You were into your parents' knowledge about Reiki and books and so on and so forth. What happened? What happened after that?
Even though I understood a lot of things beyond the medicine when I practiced pranic healing, I even did pranic healing.
What is pranic healing?
It's energy healing. It's healing through the energy.
Okay.
Healing through manipulating the energy in your body, clearing your chakras, clearing your energy system, and then...
How do you do that?
It's basically intention, but there's processes. You have to learn the process of how to cleanse the body and how to, first of all, identify which part of the body has some sort of blockage or some sort of extra energy that could also be overwhelming the intake of energy through the body. So you first kind of scan through the body and understand which part needs healing. Then you cleanse it through these processes, and then you recharge that part of the body with new clean energy. And I also learned the psychotherapy version of that. And then we started studying, what it means from the spiritual meaning of, or energetic meaning, what it means to have schizophrenia or paranoia. And so we would understand it I would understand it from this spiritual perspective that was completely different to what I studied in the scientific part. So that kind of just started. It made more sense for me. It felt more aligned. It was so easy to understand the symbolisms of the body. For example, when your back is in pain, what's the symbolism of the back? The back is, the support system and what holds you. So where are you needing more support? Like, it can be very simple. And then fast forwarding to 2014, when I came to Sweden, it was amazing how Sweden became like my deep initiation into becoming a medicine woman, because there was nothing outside of my world that could give me ease or peace but my relationship with my husband at that time. I wasn't feeling any alignment with the people. I wasn't feeling any alignment with the place and the weather and the culture and the food and anything.
Have to be so different from you. Cold, well, maybe not in the summer, but cold and chilly, and the people are more closed and so.
Yeah, no? Exactly, yeah. Exactly. And again, I come from this culture that is so expressive in its way, and not even the culture, but I am extra expressive even in my own culture. So it really was a challenge for me, because I kind of had to go back to those old traumas of you are too much, you're misplaced, you don't belong here. What am I doing here? I really felt like I was brought back to the womb in a way, like complete darkness and I had to kind of reinvent myself, because who I was at that time was not fitting with the place that I chose to be in. So my big learning at that moment was anything that I need to find to make my life happy, I need to find within myself. There's no sun outside. I need to bring the warmth within myself. There is, no expression that I can find relatable out there. I need to create it within myself in a safe environment. So when I started activating all of these things within myself, and I started learning that in order for my external reality to feel and to be experienced the way I wanted to feel, I had to feel it first. I had to be it first, because nothing outside of it would give it to me. So it was really a reinvention of myself. And in that search and in that kind of rebirth process, I started opening up to experiences and to experiencing me in this new culture in a different way, and opening up to people and people who were different. So it was also me kind of cleaning my judgment and cleaning my closeness and cleaning my patterns of judging people who are different than me. I felt so judged, but it was really me who was also judging. You don't
see the word as it is. You see the word as you are.
Yeah. Right. Yes. So it was a deep cleanse, and it was like a deep rebirth. And in that, I started opening some doors that led me to working with plant medicine. That led me to working with conscious life and working with women, meeting women like you. So it opened me, opening my heart and me opening my body to receiving me at that moment, to receiving the world and the people, and to releasing all of that wasn't how I wanted it to be, and create it to how I wanted it to be. Me opening to that and just accepting and getting out of my way and getting out of the victim mentality and just going into my first pillar, which is I am powerful enough to create my life, and nobody can give me what I can't give myself. That started opening up doors and just led me to be sitting here talking to you.
Wonderful. So you came here to Sweden.
Yeah, I was invited.
You were invited by love to Sweden as an energy thing. I think love as the most powerful energy. You come here and you had to love go within yourself, and you actually become a medicine woman here in Sweden. Is that right?
Yes.
Did I understand?
Yes.
You became a medicine woman in Sweden. That was, I didn't see that one coming.
Touché. Yeah. Sweden really was like a deep initiation also, because I love this country also because it has so much connection to nature, and nature here is so intense in its ways of expression. It's so polar in itself of expression. Like summer is like, there is no darkness in the summer, and winter, there is no light in the winter. It really goes to such deep, potent opposites that the medicine, and when I say the medicine, I mean the wisdom that you can gather from deeply going into these kinds of cocoon, like it feels like a cocoon, like a process of initiations through every stage of the year. It really brings you to going deep into the medicine that's within you, that is brought by the external circumstance. Because you have to deal with your own self through the darkness. You have to deal with your own self through not being able to sleep because there's not a cloud in the sky that can block the sun from. So it really, the nature here is so intense and so powerful that it really took me deep into bringing my own power, my own strength, and my own wisdom to hold myself through all of these external circumstances.
I have never seen it in that way, but it's so true. It's so true. In the winter, everything is not dying, not closing up, but what can you say? Go within themselves, kind of practicing dying, Shivasana.
But everything, it is dying.
Yes, and then it's so living in the summer and in spring and in autumn when everything is falling and gives fruit, and we have kind of. I can really see that because you don't have that in so many countries within except the Norden,
right?
Where we have this, because then everything is living all the time.
Yeah,
but here we're practicing dying, actually,
and that's also the beauty of going into this deep, intimate relationship with nature and understanding that you are nature, and understanding that life doesn't come without death and death doesn't come without life. And it's just a beautiful balance between the two, and it's constant. For example, for the female body, the menstruation is also symbolically, it's the possibility of a life that then doesn't become. So there is both the birth of a death in the menstruation, if you can see it that way. It's the birth of a death. Yes. And it's this duality that really takes you to a deep appreciation of how powerful, how beautiful, how ever-changing everything is. Nothing will ever remain the same. Everything will transform into something new. And that knowing also gives you some sort of peace, because everything has a possibility to change and transform into new, into different. And the chaos that nature can be also becomes flowers, also becomes beauty, also becomes sunshine. So that's also the beauty of being in this deep connection with the symbols of Mother Earth and and it cycles.
Right. When I have been at the cacao ceremony with you, usually you have it on full moon, right?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
Or new
Do you
moon.
have it new moon as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's this cycle thing. And what I just love about that is that you go through the southern and the north and the eastern and the western, and it's kind of the rhythm all through the meditation, because this is a meditation when you drink chocolate together with some chili in.
I wish it was chocolate. The first time I tried it.
Yeah, it's kind of not like oh boy, but it's cacao, it's cocoa. And you drink that because you see that as plant medicine for opening heart.
Yes.
And the symbolic with it is fantastic. It usually are women there. It has been some men.
Yeah.
Right? But it's most women so far.
Yeah.
It can change.
Everything can change. Hopefully. It is a very feminine energy medicine, if you can, because it works in the heart. And the heart is, the compassion, the love, the forgiveness, that brings a lot of feminine energy forward. But men are really, really attracted to this, of course. But I feel like maybe we want to start offering in a way that men don't feel like it's something for women. It's just heart opening, and who doesn't want to live with a heart open?
Yeah, right.
It can be scary, but it's beautiful as well.
It's scary to go there, but not to be there in the heart.
Right. But that's the thing, the process that you mentioned, when you go to the south and the east, and when you move through that, you're moving through the chakras, and you're moving through the archetypical energy that can move through, and you can move through the shadows of that. And when you move through the shadows of that, the intention is to go to the heart, where you're like, finally I'm home. But first you have to move through the denser energies and move through the illusions, move through the fear, move through the shame, move through the guilt, and then land in the heart.
So, like a psychotherapy.
Right. Exactly.
Same but different. So what more meditations do you have? What do you do? You mentioned that you were supporting women for achieving their inner wisdom, their work to find their purpose, and so on. But just like the cacao meditation, what kind of more ceremonies do you do, or what else? Tell me everything.
I feel like ceremonies can be really created and reinvented, because in a way, we live in constant rituals, and a ceremony can be just setting the safe space and a safe container for us to go in a specific ritual with an intention, with the direction of some sort to heal. So I feel like the ceremonies that I create have the intention of not only healing, but also activating energy, which is activating your inner wisdom, or activating a specific energy within you, the energy of love, the energy of joy, the energy of creation, that you're sacred feminine, and it can just take place, and it can be redirected at that moment because of the women who are there in the circle. So it's also quite intuitive. I don't create ceremonies a long time before the actual day of the ceremony, because I kind of tap into the women who are coming and how many women are coming, and I just kind of go into feeling what wants to be created that day. So the flow of it is created by the women who are there as well. It's not just me. That's why it's so important for also women to understand that it's not me creating the ceremonies. I'm just gathering everyone's intention and everyone's energy and everyone's creative power so that we can move through whatever wants to move through there at that moment. But basically, I work with the sacred feminine, activating your wisdom, going back to the body and that safe space where you remember who you truly are, where you remember your gifts and where you express them, because I'm all about self-expression. So anything related to that. And then I feel like I don't want to close it to a specific way because it keeps changing. I don't feel like they're the same. I love to do drum journeys. I love the drum. The drum is so grounding for me, and it really is like a deep, very grounding medicine to just listen to the drum and hear what the drum wants to guide us to that deep root of a remembering of the soul and a releasing and a grounding. But yeah, I feel like I'm gonna start bringing more sound into it. Not sound healing as we know it, but combining sound with voice. So kind of bring women forward to bring their voice as the healing sound. I feel like that's the shift that I'm bringing more forward. Yeah.
So the inner voice, first you kind of connect the woman with herself to start conversation between her and her and the different her within her.
Right.
And then also to come out, to express, to also help to connect the conversation with outside.
Right.
Other people, nature, circumstances, whatever.
Right. Because that's what a medicine woman does, not in terms of me, but the women that I guide, is I take you to, going to a place where you gather a wisdom within you that that is there, that it's already alive. You just haven't allowed yourself to go for it or reach it or access it. So I take you there, you gather your wisdom, and then you bring it back to the circle of sisters so that in your sharing your life experience and in your sharing your wisdom, we all learn from it. And that's what medicine women did. They would go experience life, gather the wisdom, bring it to the sisterhood so that we would all learn from that. That's why women thrive together, because we are the oracle. We are the priestesses. We are that intuitive guidance of life and the development of expansion and growth through love, through our experiences, through sharing our experiences. That's why sharing is so important. And that's why we thrive in circles, because there we empower each other to grab that medicine, bring it to the culture, if you wish. So we can all learn from each other without having to navigate through that. So we kind of skip through space and time and ascend quicker or expand quicker, if you will.
Was the first medicine woman a shaman? What do you know? Who is she?
Right. Okay. I don't know if I can go that way back, but I feel like we were all medicine women, just portrayed through different ways. For example, the witch was a medicine woman, the oracle reader, the priestesses who in sisterhood connected our, life force energy through sexual directed energy, tantra, all of that became that. There are many different ways of accessing that medicine woman. There's different archetypes of the medicine woman. There's the wild woman. So we were all just expressed through different tools or, ways of expressing that. But it's just that wisdom that we hold by having a communion and an intimate relationship with Earth, Spirit, Source, Universe, Cosmos.
So different kind of, because of whatever we learned for ourselves,
right.
and apply to the woman who is needed to have help in some way.
Right.
I understand.
Yeah. But basically my understanding or my belief is that we mostly learn through our experience and our life.
Yeah.
And that's
Absolutely.
the simplicity of it as well.
Yeah.
We don't have to look for so much more. Just live your life, learn a couple of things, and then share it with the world. And that's your wisdom. And that's how you help. And that's how you are of service to the world.
Yeah.
But in order to be of service to the world, you are to come to your awareness, to your consciousness, to your body, feel the things, learn from that, and then transmute it into a wisdom and into...
Now there are coming so big studies from, for example, the United States, where it also seems that if you're dissociated from yourself, you have trauma, you have had very severe experience as a child and so on and so forth. You can see through the ACE study, adverse childhood experience, that you are you have so much higher risk to end up with different diseases. So, and with that, all this, what we have been speaking about, the medicine woman's knowledge and so on, we can also understand it through that you have to, the most powerful, lovable thing we can do to our children is to let them grow up, to know them to be connected to themselves, to have a conversation with yourself, to experience yourself, and to hold them in space so they can develop into safe and whole persons, people. We know that, but it's not. If you didn't have that, you can also do this when you come to an adult,
right?
Of course, but that is so interesting that everything that this is so old knowledge that you are talking about, and we have to reinvent the wheel all the time,
right?
But now we have a very big wheel, very big study that is see all this. It's not so alternative knowledge as it seems like, and some people want to say that it is. It's not, because this we have known and we can see it now as well. So when you come here to Sweden because of love to your husband and you become a medicine woman, how did that end up with him? Did he see that coming?
No, he did not see that coming. And I feel like the key to continuing the relationship in this way, in a very supportive way, has always been open communication and being completely honest of where I'm going, what I'm experiencing, what I'm feeling. It's like, there's and this is something that I really loved about our relationship from the beginning. There was never any fear of not being accepted or not being...
You were very safe with him.
I always felt very safe, which is very interesting because, they teach you that when you fall in love, you're like, oh my God, I'm so nervous and my legs are shaking and your entire body kind of goes out of balance. But when I met him, it was just ease, peace, like felt safe. I felt like I could be me from the beginning. And I feel like I met him in a moment in my life where I was just completely honest with myself as well. So we met from a very truth kind of moment, from heart to heart, and just letting him know all of the process. And I feel like he really understood everything that I went through, like living here and everything that it means it meant for me to live here and to stay here, which it was also for him, it also took a lot of effort on his side because he had to carry me and he had to, support me emotionally in so many ways. So we had to be very open and honest and clear. So I feel like because my process has always just been, again, from the heart, wanting to be of service and wanting to, just be better for myself and be better, not in terms of I am not perfect as I am or I am not whole, but just I always want to improve the way I feel, because I feel like that's the core of it. It's not, for me, self-development is not I need to improve myself because there's something wrong, but it's just I want to always go back to the practice of feeling the best I can feel right now. And because he understands that, and because he understands that it really just comes from a place of love, our relationship always is respected in that way. It's like our relationship is always still a priority, but it grew and it changed and it shifted and we tried different things and we were open to other things, and sometimes we were not so open, or maybe I was open to things that he wasn't. And so it was just a matter of, where is this coming from? If we change our relationship in this way, what is it for? What is the purpose of it? If you change, then our relationship will change in this way. What is the whole, always going back to the core. What are we looking for? What are you looking for? And when you go back to the core and you go back to the heart, then everything else just dissolves automatically. Like you said, love being the biggest transformative energy. If the core of your intention is love, nothing else matters. So that's what was always able to keep our relationship good and stable and expansive. And so we just expand together in many different ways. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Thank you.
When I'm listening to what you say, I think that I reflect on that you have this safe, you met him and he become your safe person, your safe space. And you come here to Sweden in a totally different world. But you had him as a safe person, as a safe space. And from that you could, and love, of course, everything is about love, as you said. And you could develop from that. Because I think that if you have come here and you didn't had to have him or a safe space, a safe person, maybe things wouldn't have become that here. Maybe you should develop in another country or in another circumstances. But through this and the importance of us to help each other, because we have to have in kind of psychotherapy, or as you, when you take these women to you, when you see them, when you help them as a medicine woman, it is to be also the safe person to guide. Maybe he didn't guide you. I didn't hear that, but he guided you through coming here to Sweden, put you in this frame, or not frame, but frame to develop. You had to kind of develop to be able to be here, right?
I love that. I haven't thought of it that way, but that's exactly it. Just all people need, like you said before, right, is a safe, sacred space where they can feel held to just be.
Yeah.
And being in whatever that means. And being in their mess, and being in their chaos, and being in their ecstasy, and being in their joy, and being in that fullest expression, whatever that may feel or look like. Just that space is healing. That's it.
That's it. And this conversation, if I would choose, I would be sitting here for the rest of the day with you. But now we just have a couple of minutes left. So before we stop, I want to ask you if there's something that you want to tell us more about, that you had to, what you do, what you want to see, whatever you want to say.
I feel like...
if it's something you want to add.
Right. I feel like a word and something that I've been practicing lately and that I've learned also, when you touch base on the heart and love and, everything else, we transcend anything that is not aligned with that or that's in the physical form. And we go into simplicity. So simplicity has been a word and a concept that I'm really bringing into my being right now, into embodying right now. And simplicity, just in terms of something that I mentioned before, it's not that constant search to improve ourselves and better ourselves. And, we have to become the best version and develop. I feel like everything can just come down to the simplicity of being in your body. Notice how you're feeling, because at the end of the day, all we want to do is feel our natural state of being, which is joy, ease, peace, expression, and love. So the simplicity of create a communication with your body to understand where you are not in alignment with that, and then just bring it to the simplicity of how can you feel happy and at ease and at peace and in love and expressive now in this moment, because everything else is just noise. Everything else is just... So simplicity can also just be in pause, be in looking at nature, being in feeling the beauty of the spring that's coming now here in Sweden. There's not much that we need to do in this life. What we do is the manifestation of what we're feeling. So the simplicity of how can you feel the way you want to feel now?
Beatriz Soto, thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity.
It was amazing and a magical conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Både och istället för antingen eller, en podd om integrativ medicin och hälsa, är skapad och drivs av Svensk förening för integrativ medicin och hälsa, FIM. FIM är ursprungligen en yrkesförening för legitimerad vårdpersonal. Vi representerar sjuksköterskor, dietister, fysioterapeuter, läkare, psykoterapeuter, psykologer, tandläkare för att nämna några. Idag omfattas våra medlemmar även av associerade medlemmar som inte behöver vara legitimerade. Föreningens arbete vilar mot den vetenskapliga grund för integrativ medicin och hälsa som finns, såväl svensk som internationell, och på systemisk förståelse av människan i sin miljö. Vår förenings arbetssätt har hittills varit att arrangera konferenser, seminarier och folkbilda genom att sprida information, exempelvis via sociala medier. Vår strävan inom integrativ medicin är att vara en organisation som vågar lyfta och ifrågasätta, motverka polariseringar genom tvärvetenskapliga dialoger och sokratiska samtalsregler. Vi vill kartlägga forskning som bedrivs även internationellt och hålla koll på aktuella forskningsresultat om behandlingsmetoder, både vad det gäller den etablerade vården liksom den vård som bedrivs utanför den etablerade vården. Sokratiska samtalsregler innefattas i den sokratiska samtalsformen som egentligen all grundläggande kunskap är sprungen ur, men som ibland till och med lyser med sin frånvaro i dagens public service. Så bli gärna medlem hos oss, för tillsammans kan vi förändra. Och hur du blir medlem hittar du via vår hemsida integrativ-medicin.se. Vi ses och hörs i nästa avsnitt.